Thanks for joining us again for another episode of Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. The NFL 2025 league year has begun, and with it, the flurry of activity around free agency, and a little bit more that we'll talk about before the free agency frenzy kicked off on Monday. We're here with our free agency winners and losers episode, just to have a quick review of what's taken place, who we think is better off, and who we think might be a step behind the rest in the NFL. I am, of course, joined, as always, by Byron and Joe. Gentlemen, how are you both doing? Lovely to see you. It's good now, like, it's only a week since I saw you last. It's not been like 3-4 weeks. How are you both doing?
Good, yeah. I mean, it hasn't been the wildest free agency period, but it's good to just be getting news again. So.
I'm doing all good. Like both, it was, we might as well just say, what is this tampering period? Let's just open it up on Monday because it feels like the contracts were in place before Monday. So there's definitely it just feels like just start on Monday, just let them do what they want because they're going to do it anyway. Let's try not to pretend. And at least this year we haven't so far had someone be like, I'm signing for that team. And then suddenly on Wednesday being like, nah, I'm going to sign for a different team instead. So hopefully our news should be up to date.
Well,
yeah, I think the closest we got was Milton Williams, where rumoured on Monday, and then 10 minutes later he was not rumoured to be going to the Panthers. But yeah, I wanted Frank Gore. I remember a few years ago when he was an Eagle for 0 minutes, literally, but like for 20 minutes he was an Eagle, and then he ended up with the Bills or the Colts. I forget which year it was. Frank Gore had a few at the end of his career, but I want more of that on actual opening day, where they think they've got the deal done on Monday, then Wednesday it's like, nah, actually, F this, I'm going to X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's definitely some illegal tampering going on before the legal tampering, for sure, to make this stuff happen. So that right on 4 p.m. Eastern on Monday, all these deals are done, or expected to be done. But just before we get into it, a quick reminder, if you're not following us on our channels already, please make sure you do. Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Overcast, probably some other places that I've flukily uploaded it to. So check there. YouTube as well, Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover, and at GTW_GTC over on X or Twitter when it's working. Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. You can find us on all of those channels. Let's get into, because there was a bit of activity before the legal tampering period opened on Monday, and some really key stuff, I think, that shaped a lot of what happened on Monday. The first part that we'll talk about, for me, absolutely came out of the blue. I didn't even consider the notion that Geno Smith would be traded by the Seattle Seahawks. Teaming back up with Pete Carroll at the Las Vegas Raiders, not Oakland, as I was about to say. Byron is our big Geno guy. Mm-hmm. What was your reaction when you saw that Geno was getting traded?
I was shocked. Yeah, I was stunned, truthfully. The further away we get from it, though, the more I think it makes sense. I don't think Seattle have been overly committal to him with their comments through the off-season. The more recent ones were more committed, I think, to Geno as a starter, but at the start of the off-season, it was like, we'll review the position, etc. So I kind of feel like it's one maybe we should have seen coming more, thinking about it that way. But, yeah, I was stunned. But I think it makes sense for the Raiders. They missed out on Matthew Stafford. It's hard to get a veteran who can play. Geno, you're not getting the Aaron Rodgers drama. He's a better quarterback than Russell Wilson now. I don't think anyone would dispute that. I think, we can get into the free agency of it all as we get to it, but I think he's a better quarterback than Justin Fields or Sam Darnold, who have been the highest paid starters coming out of free agency at quarterback. Danny Dimes as well. I would rather have Geno fronting my franchise for the next 2 seasons, 3 seasons, and those guys who might be younger, but 3 years is a long enough window in the NFL. It doesn't matter if Sam Darnold's going to be out playing Geno in 6 years, because the likelihood is neither of them's going to be starting in 6 years, let's be honest. So, yeah, I think the Raiders have done themselves a good thing there. I think it's a late third-round pick. I don't actually have the number in front of me, but
92.
Yeah, so, not right at the start, but yeah, I just think it's a, obviously Pete Carroll has familiarity with Geno. I think it's a really good move for the Raiders. I was stunned to see the Seahawks. I don't say capitulating, but if they couldn't come to terms with Geno, I guess it kind of makes sense if they think Geno's going to hold out for more money. I'm not really sure how bad it would have went, but it felt like the negotiations just kind of started and died very quickly on an extension or more money. And then obviously Seattle kind of followed up the next day. In fact, was it with DK Metcalf leading the building, going from the Seahawks to the Steelers for a second round pick. Obviously, they didn't want to pay DK Metcalf either. I'll stop ranting about Geno Smith. Like, what did you guys think of the DK Metcalf trade?
Yeah, DK. I think it feels like the Seattle then were just gonna move on and not just quite start afresh. But there's a lot of pieces they've lost there in Geno, in DK, and Tyler Lockett as well, which was a more expected one. But yeah, since once DK made it kind of clear he wanted to go, I think it was clear that.
Well, he wanted to go somewhere warm with a good quarterback and a contender, right? So Pittsburgh. Who, again, jumping ahead to free agency a little here. We are a full day into the league year. We are 4 days into the negotiating legal tampering window, and their only quarterback under contract is Mason Rudolph, right?
Yeah, he resigned from Tennessee, but DK I think is an interesting one in terms. I think Seattle got a good. I think they reported they wanted more for DK, but I think what they got is fine. A second and a late round swap, I think is fine. I really can't wait to see Pickens and DK on the field at the same time. I think it's just going to be must see.
You are projecting that they go through the off season together, and
I mean, they're going to fight. There's got to be a fight over the number, right? Both number 14.
DK's already took 4.
Fight for that.
DK's already took 4.
Has he taken 4?
Yeah, so annoyingly, that first bit of drama, which I was certainly envisioning also, was gone. It just.
I am curious how it's going to work because. Yeah, I don't mind Seattle trading DK. It felt like he was not an issue, but I'm guessing he wasn't too happy that he wasn't the number one wide receiver. And it was fairly clear that JSN is the number one wide receiver there, and I think he wasn't getting the targets he expected, wanted. Now going with Pickens, who is the number one? I don't know. Like, both of them are not, for me, true number ones. How they've played, I think they can get up to that level if they hit their peak, but how they've been playing the last year or so, they're like the top end number 2, maybe a low end number 1. So I'd be curious who takes the snaps, and like you said, it's who's throwing the ball is massive, and yeah, it's a big change for the Seahawks. And this is one of them where they wouldn't have got rid of Geno, I don't think, if they already had a contract more or less sorted out with Sam Darnold. So this is where it's a bit like this was like beforehand, so the illegal. Yeah, so I don't mind either. Like you mentioned, like going a few days after Geno one shocked me. But it's been reported that he wanted 45 to 40 million. I think he's 7 or 8 years older than Darnold. And also they're having a brand new offense, which is QBR coming from the Saints, which is a very, it doesn't suit Geno as much as it probably suits Darnold. So it makes sense in that sense as well, that they may have not felt that he would have been the perfect one for that. So we'll see how it goes. But, I know we're going to do winning and losers later on, but maybe we're one of the losers because we were not slating, but we were certainly concerned how the Raiders were, what they were going to do, and we felt like they were going to be a fairly boring team. But this makes the Raiders exciting for once, and makes the AFC West even more exciting with some of the other teams getting better as well.
Yeah, and then the potential drama in Pittsburgh. Obviously, we still don't really know, as you mentioned, who's going to be the starting quarterback. It certainly isn't going to be Mason Rudolph, I wouldn't have thought. But if there's one man that can handle both DK and George Pickens together at the same time, it's Mike Tomlin. I feel like he's handled much worse. Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, Juju at times.
Oh yeah, you're just going receivers, but yeah, I was saying Le'Veon Bell.
Le'Veon Bell, yeah.
Ben Roethlisberger.
I have a sneaky suspicion. A sneaky suspicion that Pickens won't make it to training camp as a Steeler. I think he might get traded.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll want to pay him a second contract. Especially because we're already paying DK Metcalf, not a second contract, but like a veteran contract. So kind of one of the theories I floated on Blue Sky this morning was like, there's talk of Shedeur Sanders, and I'm sorry, we've kind of opened up on the news here a bit, but like, if Shedeur Sanders has a little slide, if you're Dallas, you set 12. Shedeur Sanders is available. Do you take 21, which I believe the Steelers pick is, and George Pickens to go 20 to 12?
Oof. I mean, Dallas do need another receiver. They really do need some
and is there a better receiver? Ted McMillan might go in the first 12, but otherwise, is there a receiver?
But
DK
DK does want whether a good quarterback, a possible contender, so he might want to go to the Cowboys after he's had a few days of the Steelers.
Yeah, exactly.
DK does have $132 million. Well, the contract worth $132 million for 4 years that he signed with the Steelers. Speaking of massive contracts in the AFC North, Mr. It's not about Canton, it's about championships. Turned around on that pretty quickly. Myles Garrett, I'm real disappointed in Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, took $123 million guaranteed, an average of $40 million a year on a 4-year extension. I think it ties him in total to the Browns for 6 years. I'm real disappointed in him. I thought he should have stood. If he did really want to go, I thought he should have stood his ground.
Yeah, I find it hard to be too disappointed on people getting their bag, but just don't make the fuss then.
Shouldn't release that statement, yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to go out of your way to, like you say, it's championships, not Canton. Well, that's not true, is it then? It's bags, not wins that you're looking for, which you're entitled to do. He's an adult, his generational wealth for his family, etc., etc., etc. But on a football level, yeah, you've just committed to not competitive football for the next, at least 2 years of your career with the way the Browns are set, I would dare say. Anything can happen, obviously. We can always be surprised. But whatever issues he thought the Browns had 2 months ago, they still have today.
Well, I have Kenny Pickett, so...
Super Bowl winning quarterback Kenny Pickett, please.
Yeah.
We talked about it on our last preview of, did I think that Myles Garrett might get traded? I didn't think it would happen before the draft. I thought it would have to be... Yeah. Garrett would have to basically kick and scream his way through training camp and not show up to get it done, because there was no financial incentive for the Browns to do it. They weren't going to save any money. They were going to lose money trading him. It was going to put him in a worse position for this year at the very least. So yeah, I didn't see it getting done quickly. I did not see it getting done this way quickly either, though. I don't know. It just...
Yeah, do you think the Browns made the right decision? Because obviously you're keeping a generational talent, up there, but are you actually really going to get anywhere going forward, because you've still got that horrible contract with the QB where, one option which has got, because they've got a high draft pick, you take Abdul Carter with the second pick and you trade Garrett for, you're at least going to get at least one first. Who knows what else you're going to get, so I'd save that 160, so...
I don't know if they were thinking they were going to potentially get more for Garrett as well, but I think the difficulty, and what maybe Trey Hendrickson is finding as well, is it's difficult to find a trade partner when you need to give up such capital and pay. The contract teams are just not going to do it. You can't give up that many resources.
And you're not 25.
Yeah.
This will be his last big contract. Yeah, there's not that many teams who... my pick for Myles Garrett was the Eagles, because... they could have got it done later in the season, later in the off-season. Give up a 26 pick, no problem, because it's going to be in the high 20s, realistically. Even give up a 27 second or third rounder with it as well, because, again, it's going to be a late pick. They can eat the short-term cap because Jeffrey Lurie is happy to do that. He's happy to finance it properly, which a lot of organisations aren't willing to do, put the money in escrow up front. But there's just not that many teams who are that confident in their ability to do so. And you're kind of rightly so as well, because... the amount of if Tennessee had said, we'll give you a 26 first and second for Myles Garrett, we'd sit here and say, what are they doing? It has to be a winner that does it. And in which case, it's hard to say the Browns are going to get good value on it.
I'm guessing this didn't help as well, being a Cowboys fan, in terms of seeing what...
Nothing helps being a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, seeing what Garrett got with Parsons. Yeah. When you look, Nick Bosa signed a couple of years ago, 5 years for $170 million. With 122 guaranteed, while Myles Garrett's just got 4 years for 160. Garrett's got 122 million guaranteed. So I'm guessing Parsons is going to want something similar.
It's just, again, it's something I posted on Blue Sky in the week. It's like, Mike Brown of the Bengals and Jerry Jones of the Cowboys, like it was basically like them waiting for premium players to drop their price tags, and it's just two skeletons. Like it's not going to happen. Like over and over and over again, we keep seeing the same. Like there's no point being, and I'm not saying you are, but like there's no point being shocked or surprised by the Bengals or the Cowboys. Now they don't want to spend money. Like they will when it ultimately has to be done, and they end up losing value on it. And again, we say it. It feels like every off season, and he does make some mistakes certainly. But Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, their willingness to pay their good players early saves them so much in the long run. Everyone knows the cap only goes up. And the broadcasting deals will go up again when they're next negotiated, I think in 28 or 29. And like you look at how they're negotiating their contracts for the big hits to be in those years. Like Jalen Hurts is a prime example of it. Dallas and again the Bengals are kind of pieced together as it feels like they're just mom and pop organizations. It's like being billion-dollar franchises. Like I don't think it's good for the league, especially. I don't want to say it as a Cowboys fan because I hate that kind of like arrogance and entitlement. But like, the Cowboys are a bit of a laughingstock, I think, in the league. Like right now, they get nothing done. It feels like nothing's going to change anytime soon because Jerry just doesn't. Whether he's just old school, whether he's delicate about his finances, I mean, there's no reason to. But I don't know what it is. But just his unwillingness to be proactive rather than reactive it just continues to bite the Cowboys on the butt year after year.
We just got into a little bit of our loser talk there.
My apologies.
With other bit of news, and it does concern the NFC East as well. The Commanders being proactive, aggressive, traded for Laramie Tunsil. Surprised the Texans gave up Laramie Tunsil given the difficulties they had. And he did hit, I think, fair to say, Laramie Tunsil did have a down year last year from where we've seen him play before. But still, I'd say one of the better left tackles in the league. The Commanders got him for, I think there's for a fourth and swap for a third and seventh and second and fourth. So I think a pretty fair trade. And they've upgraded the tackle where a rookie was predominantly playing there last year for the Commanders. Great move by the Commanders to give Jaden Daniels the protection he needs.
I'm curious when teams who have got really had a bad offensive line are then willing to give up one of the key pieces. It feels like it's something going on there. What I've heard from other podcasts and other reporters apparently didn't fit into that system in terms of how the head coach runs that, how Ryan runs that way. He wants maximum effort and he wants them to put to be, get ready to turn up and do the extra work and do all that kind of stuff. But he was more like a veteran set and that kind of sense. So I don't think the Texans were going to pay him again. And I think his contract's up in 2 years, so the player would have had to pay him next year. So to get maximum value in trade, I don't mind it for the Texans too. Obviously, that line, they seem to have got rid of quite a few of the pieces on that line, but it was also a terrible line. So it's not. So they're trying something new. So yeah, I'm curious. I think it's good for both teams. Like you said, get the Commanders set. They're doing the thing where they've got a rookie QB, and again, all the veterans in. Hopefully, it just doesn't stifle Jaden Daniels' progress with having all these veterans taking over the locker room but he doesn't seem that kind of character. So I think it's positive for the Commanders.
Excellent, good stuff. There's plenty of other bits as well, but I think the rest we will touch on during our roundup. We're going to focus on winners and losers. Who wants to kick us off then? Byron, do you want to go first with you? Which team has won the week so far? Oh, not the build-up as well, because I think obviously there's activity that's happened before. That's obviously included, but yeah, which team do you think's had the best kind of week or so in setting themselves up for 2025 and beyond?
Sure. So I'm going winner. I'm going to go the Ben Johnson Chicago Bears. They have retooled their offensive line in one. What was that?
Again,
every off-season we do this. The Bears.
Yeah.
But Byron loves to pick the Bears anyway in season as well. It's his fifth team out of it,
I tell you, spoiler alert: one of my teams won't be the same next year. The Chicago Bears may well be; they almost certainly will be. But you bring in Drew Dolman, center, best on the market. Joe Tooney, guard, best on the market that wasn't really on the market, but best available you could possibly have got. Jonah Jackson, credible filling on the line. They have overhauled their offensive line. The tackles weren't really a problem position. Darnell Wright's been good since he signed was drafted 2 years ago. And then they just need to figure out left tackle long term, but got him there for now. Last year, they ranked dead last in dollars devoted to the offensive line. This year, they have the 5th most expensive group in the league. And you can say, well, expensive doesn't necessarily mean good, but it doesn't. But it's a step in the right effing direction.
Yeah.
I think this is a team being built in, not necessarily Ben Johnson's image, but exactly how Ben Johnson wants football to be played. Again, we talked about this in our previews of who we think the Bears would sign, and they've kind of done exactly what we thought they would. Strengthen that centre, strengthen that offensive line. I'm sure if you offer them now, you don't know anything else that happens in the NFL draft, but at pick 10, Ashton Genty is available. I think they would be running to the clock right now to slide that paper in. You know, the wide receivers are good. Caleb Williams, huge year for him because you have to do it now. You know, all the hype that he had, and he ate sacks like nobody's business last year. Bad O-line last year, but bad decision-making as well, obviously. But yeah. And then, I don't say an underrated signing because he got paid plenty. Grady Jarrett gets released, and 20 minutes later, he's a Bear. Kind of think that might have been a little pre-planned as well. But, you know, over his career, I don't think Grady Jarrett's quite put it all together, but there's a player there, and the Bears need internal pressure up the middle. Who doesn't? But the Bears certainly do. I think they've had a really solid, not necessarily flashy free agency, but again, exactly what they needed. And then obviously got Oya Bingo on the edge as well, just another useful weapon who can come in and contribute immediately. I think pretty much everything they've done has been good this year from the Bears. I don't think there's a bad signing in the bunch. They will do more work as time goes on. Obviously, there's a lot of veteran free agent wide receivers available that they can, you know, get in as extra bodies to go alongside Moore and Odunze. But I think everything good so far in Chicago.
Yeah, I think they're in the position, I think, where they've set themselves up that they can take best player available come, pick... Where, the 10? Yeah, the pick 10.
Yeah.
Pick 10. And yeah, I would not... Yeah, I think Ashton Genty to the Bears seems to fit. We've seen what he's done with Gibbs in Detroit. Mm-hmm. Ashton Genty can be that and more. He can do both roles. He can do what Gibbs can do and what Montgomery can do. And fixing that whole line, which was the huge problem last year. Yeah, great work from the Bears. It's got to translate into wins though this time. I think that's the thing. Into 2022, into 2023 and 2024. Similar conversations about the great work the Bears have done, and it didn't translate to wins.
I mean, if we can go a little further back, can we also include the addition of Ben Johnson then?
Yeah, Ben Johnson.
And the subtraction.
Yeah.
You know, addition by subtraction of no more Matt Eberflus.
No more Eberflus. Yeah.
Well, that's going a little further back. I do appreciate, but
Joe, who's your winner or one of your winners?
I'm going to go with a team who I think won day 2 of free agency and it's made them a lot better team, and that's the Minnesota Vikings. I think they've improved a lot. I think I know I had them getting Sam Darnold, but I think not getting Sam Darnold has helped them massively. They had a lot of cap, but also they didn't have to put any resources in that. We'll see who they get as their backup, but there's plenty of them out there. But yeah, some of the key additions, getting Will Fries, who was the top guard in the free agency, getting Ryan Kelly at center, so beefing up that O-line, which got absolutely destroyed against the Lions and especially against the Rams in the playoffs, especially that interior O-lines. They needed to improve that. And then they got the big boys up the middle as well for the defense, getting Jonathan Allen and also Javon Hargreave. They paid for Jonathan Allen, a little bit more money than what he was at Commanders, but they had so much, why not spend it? Like we've always said, it's better than not spending it. So yeah, beefing up that line. Javon Hargreave just coming off a bad injury last year, but he seems fully healthy, so helping that defense even get that interior pressure, because even though it felt like a lot of their pressure, it had to be off blitzers. It felt like they never won that kind of battle when it was just let's not blitz. That's when teams tried to pick them apart. And then bringing back Aaron Jones and Byron Murphy. The Byron Murphy ones I think is good. Aaron Jones is quite a bit of money I think he got. I think it was 2 for $20 or something around that.
15 million
13 guaranteed, yeah.
Yes, but he also had a good season, having a better interior offensive line, and yeah, they had so much cap with having that Jaden McCarthy. And again, that's another similar with the Bears. It's will that second year quarterback, technically his first year in the NFL after the injury, will he take that step and be a better player? I think they've put everything around him now. They've got the weapons. They've helped with that line. I know they've put a lot of draft stock in there, and that defense is getting better. So now can they push on, and can JJ McCarthy show something? And I know there's been whispers about Aaron Rodgers going there. I don't think they should even touch that. It'd be someone good like Jacoby Brissett or someone like that just to have in the back pocket just to help JJ McCarthy along instead of going for that splash. So I think they've had a good free agency where it's good, solid. Let's make this team better than it was before. Because I always think with free agency, the ones who make the huge splashes, the bad teams used to give out bad contracts and don't get that much better. It feels like free agency it usually helps teams who are good and gets them to that next step.
Yeah, sadly, Jacoby Brissett no longer an option for them as he signed with the Cardinals.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. But I love what the Vikings have done. Taking the opportunity of where they are cap wise, and not really. I'm really interested to see how that defense evolves then, because they're not going to need to lean on the blitz as much as it was a strength for them last year. But they're going to be able to get home with 4 more often now. It's a scary defensive front that they've built. And that's going to be a way to win in December and win in January. So really impressed with how they've gone about the business. Ryan Kelly was a good signing as well. So I think they've done really good job, the Minnesota Vikings, and building what is tough division. We saw that last year with the Lions, Packers, and Vikings all winning records, best division in football. Sans the Bears, really impressed with how they've gone about. I'm going to go for somebody who needed to do a lot of work to get better. Also had the money to do so, and we were fully expecting that they'd go on a bit of a spending spree because they had the most cap space. I think the Patriots have gone and they've raised their floor massively. The Patriots with the moves they've made. A lot of sensible moves. I think 4 great signings on defense that is really going to help in Carlton Davis. He's 3 for 60. Robert Spillane. I think that's a great sign. That is such a Vrabel move. Really is. And I think he's been a standout on the Raiders. I think just playing the inside line position, but he's just so consistent. I think he'd be a real tone setter on the defense, bringing exactly what Vrabel wants to it. Harold Landry, someone that Vrabel is very familiar with, and also Milton Williams, who he thought was going to go to the Panthers, but ended up at the Patriots on a 4-year, $104 million deal. I think they're set that defense now. We've already got players like Christian Gonzalez on it. It's just been uplifted massively. While it had some talent, I think they're just more consistent across the board. So I think that defense is going to be so much better. And then again, a problem for the Patriots was the O-line. Gone and got a veteran in, Morgan Moses. Steady Eddie. Know what you're getting from him. And again, that's something that Drake May is going to need. We saw Jacoby Brissett get killed for 6 games or whatever it was behind that O-line last year. Morgan Moses, I think, is a great signing in from the Jets. Matt Hollins, he was a lot more productive with the Bills last year than I thought he was going to be. So I wonder how that's going to fit with Drake May. And of course, they've also got the Pastronaut in as well. So with Brissett going, Josh Dobbs as a backup in the Patriots. I think they've raised their floor massively. And again, they're in a position in the draft now where, depending what happens ahead of them, someone like if Abdul Carter falls or Travis Hunter is if they had Travis Hunter to Carlton Davis and Christian Gonzalez, and then you've got him as an option receiver as well, it solves some of the problems that you've got.
I was going to say, I bet they gutted that it wasn't like last year's draft in terms of where they are to get that true number 1 wide receiver, because Max Hollins is a decent 3. for. You know what I mean? They've got a lot of work to do still on the offensive side. And what you don't want to do going into a draft being having such a massive need where other teams are like, oh, they're going to take a wide receiver, so let's move ahead of them and all that kind of stuff. So I think they've done, really good on the defense, but let's try and get, let's get your rookie QB some weapons for Christ, because if it's similar, what they're trudging out as last year, then, it's probably going to give similar results because you need players. I'll be curious. I know there's been we mentioned like about Ayuk and a few of it. You mentioned Pickens. I wonder if they'll be in to trade for one of them wide receivers because they were heavily in Ayuk last year, but Ayuk didn't want to go. But now, obviously, signed a contract. He probably doesn't. I wonder. I don't know if he has a trade clause.
He has no say in it.
Yeah. So
Well, that'd be a quarterback thing usually.
yeah. So I'm curious if they'll be in for that kind of player or any wide receiver who's available, or get like a veteran like Diggs or something like that. But they still need to draft and get some premium talent for that offense to help them out.
Any other kind of big winners you thought from kind of the moves that they made?
From the Patriots or generally, sorry?
Just generally, sorry, yeah.
Well, I mean, I would say a big winner of free agency so far has been mediocre offensive linemen hitting the market at the right time.
Yeah, screw that.
Yeah. Dan Moore, 4 years, $82 million. Larry Jackson, also re-signing, sorry. Jalen Moore signing with the Chiefs, 2 years, $30 million. Ryan Kelly, who I think is a good addition for the Vikings, but he's played the last couple of years. Doesn't it scream to me that he should be getting 2 years, $18 million? Who's the big one? Aaron Banks, there we go.
Aaron Banks on the 49ers, yeah.
Making bank. 4 years, $77 million. I know these aren't all guarantees, sorry, but Macari from the Ravens gone to Jacksonville. Utility player, sure, but 3 years, nearly $40 million. The money's to be spent, I'm not even going to say like the team shouldn't be spending it. I mean, some of them maybe, but you've got to spend it. Like the money's there to be spent. It's just good timing. You don't get renewed. Ronnie Stanley, I'm sure he's happy to be in Baltimore, but I think he could have added maybe $5-6 million to his annual salary if he wanted to play the market. Talking about New England, they apparently were offering Chris Godwin $26-27 million a year, and he's decided to stay in Tampa for 20. I mean, to be fair, with Florida taxes, he's probably going to be making about the same regardless. But in this market, I'm not really sure what else New England could have really done at receiver. Not that this is related to my winner of average offensive lineman hitting the market, but I just wanted to kind of give a bit of sympathy to New England on that one. I think they've done a good job overall, like you say, but if players don't want to come, you do have to kind of just roll the bank out and say, hey, come, a lot of, like I say, average offensive linemen getting paid like they are superstars, and good for them. Again, they're the ones who put the body on the line, not me. So
I was gonna say if there's any parents out there, I know times are tough with food. Just keep feeding your kid, get him built up if he's a big lad, and get him to try to get on that offensive line. There's plenty of defensive linemen, and it feels like they're all coming in, but there's not enough offensive line talent, so that's where they can make the money.
And if you are worried about family planning, financials, I've seen the Blindside documentary starring Sandra Bullock. If you're a rich, white, entitled family, just start driving the, downtown areas, looking for some big, poor kids, and maybe, offer the families a few grand, and we'll take them in as our protector and see where we can get with it. I think that all ended well as well. I don't think there was any...
Yeah, that was a happy ending. I love the Sandra Bullock documentary.
It was a good one, yeah, very true to life.
Yeah, my next set of winners was also going to be a position group. Inside linebackers getting their money. We saw the running backs get paid last year in free agency. The money's moved to the inside linebackers this year. Mentioned obviously Robert Spillane a little bit earlier when talking about the Patriots. Nick Bolton re-signed for for some big money as well. I think it's $15 million a year. So yeah, good to see kind of the market coming back around for the linebackers. It's a tough career in the NFL playing linebacker. And yeah, you should absolutely get your paid. Greenlaw as well got good money from the Broncos. So nice to see the linebackers getting recognised and getting some coin as well. There was a couple of others that I've just completely lost.
Ernest Jones signed with the Seahawks after... he was with the Seahawks anyway, but he either got cut or traded for nothing twice last year from the Rams and then from the Titans. And the Seahawks defense really jumped up when he came in. mid-season. So yeah, he ended up getting a 3-year 33. Again, these aren't guarantees. I'm just reading off the general sheet here. 3 years 33 he got though. Again, considering getting cut mid-season by the Titans, I don't know if he was seeing a 3-year $33 million contract in his future. You mentioned Dre Greenlaw.
Bourne obviously got his contract. I know we
what
about last time, but 3 for 51. So yeah, it was nice to see the linebackers getting their money. Bobby Wagner got 9. So yeah.
Terrell Bernard got re-signed by the Bills, 4 for 50. So yeah.
And then my other one, Joe, before I hold it up to you, actually was the Buffalo Bills, and not because they've been particularly proactive, but re-signing their guys. Josh Allen, obviously, off the back of his MVP, got 6-year, $330 million with $250 million guaranteed. Whew. $250 million. Impressive stuff, but they re-signed a lot of their own guys. Shakir got done earlier. They got Rousseau. Damar Hamlin back. But a couple of moves they made as well. I think Josh Palmer could be a good fit. We were expecting him to break out a bit more last year with the Chargers. Didn't really work out. And, it was really just Lad McConkey or bust for the Chargers. I think in a slightly better situation, Palmer could be really productive for the Bills. When he's on his 12, I think 12 a year. So that's very interesting. And Joey Bosa, Von Miller gone, Joey Bosa in, so almost just kind of that veteran replacement. Bosa struggled the last couple of years with the Chargers, I think, in terms of staying fit and being productive. I think he could have a bit of a rebirth in Buffalo. Maybe used a bit more situationally. Kind of what they wanted out of Von Miller but didn't quite get. I think Joe was 1 year, $12 million for what you can potentially get out of him, and you know what he's capable of. And that could be one of the moves that pays off big time come again December and January, where it's key ultimately to get to the quarterback. So yeah, I think the Bills are set up pretty well. Joe, any last winners before we look at the flip side?
I'll just run off a couple of teams I did like the Broncos signing a few. Again, Havanga, Greenlaw, and they signed Evan Ingram. A few re-signings. I think that just makes that defense better. And they are gambles with some of the contracts, but if they work out, they'll be a lot better team. I do like how the Lions signed DJ Reed and did he get Carlton Davis for less money, and some of the re-signings look positive. I do actually like what the Colts did. We'll get to the Colts in a second, but their secondaries are getting Bynum and Travarius Ward. I think that just makes that a secondary a hell of a lot better. I think that was such a big weakness for the Colts, and you do with that. So the offensive linemen have been departed, but it sounds like they've got a few rookies. And finally, the Rams. I like what the Rams did in terms of getting Poona Ford, getting signing some players against Stafford back, which we talked about with the contract, and obviously the main headline, getting Devontae Adams in for Cooper Kupp, basically. I think that's a good sign up, and that it's a good fit for both. And I feel like you do something different to Kupp and give them something different, because I feel like Kupp and Puka was very similar, so it gives them something to work with. So I think them 4 teams did well. Like it's franchise changing, but again, just getting these pieces here, and just like I said, the Colts have just converted their secondary to be a hell of a lot better. Getting players who you sign and you just know they're going to have a good year. They're not going to be a problem, and I think that's what free agency is about. But obviously, we'll chat about the QB battle, which makes the Colts off-season a bit more interesting. Getting Danny Dimes in to compete against Anthony Richardson, which I think me and Byron have a certain opinion, which is opposite to Paul. So I'll let you go first, Paul, to be the positive about Danny Dimes.
So I think this is a really good move by the Colts to get somebody into. I think they're going to find out about Anthony Richardson before they're going to make their mind up on Anthony Richardson before this season starts, because there is just still almost on a weekly basis noise coming out of Indianapolis around him not being a professional, him not putting the work in.
This noise comes from Pat McAfee, to be fair.
Some of it is Pat McAfee, that is true.
He was a walking gobshite. Like, I think anything Pat McAfee says, he is what's the word? Like Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless. Like, he is a provocateur. That's the word I'm looking for.
Nice.
I would take anything Pat McAfee says and throw it in the trash.
Yeah. Some of it is from McAfee, but not all of it is. And
Not all of it is, no. And I don't fully believe in Richardson. I will say that as well. Sorry, I will let you continue. Sorry, Paul. You go ahead.
Yeah. So back to, I think this is a really good move. And look, I've said this here. I am, making a judgment now in March. I think Daniel Jones is going to be starting for the Indianapolis Colts in week 1. I think what you're going to get from Daniel Jones is a much better chance to win. And we had this conversation at times with Flacco last year, obviously being in the building at the Colts. This is slightly different. This isn't, Daniel Jones at 36, 37 or 40, whatever Joe Flacco was. Daniel Jones has got the opportunity here, a second chance. Obviously, it went to shit with the Giants after he got his contract. He's got a second chance here. The Colts getting somebody in who likely, when you know what's 2 years in Richardson, how much time he misses through injury. And, Daniel Jones is going to play at some point and probably play a few games at minimum. I just think he's going to beat Richardson out through the summer. So you need somebody who's got experience, who can be competent. And I think with Shane Steichen will be able to get a lot more out of Daniel Jones than kind of after it went sour in New York. I think I've said this at the time. It's not that I'm just sticking to this belief that Anthony Richardson isn't very good. It's just a lack of experience in college. He's shown flashes of brilliance in terms of obviously can sling the ball so far. What he's not been able to show in 2 years is to be able to grasp how to play quarterback in the NFL and grasp a game plan and grasp a system. Physical talents and stuff like that, without doubt. That is not. I don't think that's enough to get. He's not good enough there to get by, and win games like that. So I think this is a pretty shrewd. I can't say it, shrewd signing. Easy for me to say by the Colts, and I think Daniel Jones might be there for a while.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with much of what you say about Anthony Richardson. I think you're a little too harsh on him. I think considering his first. He's played 15 games in the league with an 8-7 record. His completion percentage is horrendous, but a lot of his other stats aren't actually so bad, especially as a rushing weapon. But I think the biggest thing that's kind of being misidentified here is Daniel Jones is fucking trash. Like, he's had one relatively good season, and everything else, either as a rookie or his last 10 games, or like since he came back from injury, essentially I think it was 10 games he started last year, he was way below league average quarterback play. Again, it's not necessarily like I'm a huge believer in Richardson, and I'm not, and I think a lot of it is more off the field than on the field even. Like, I kind of agree. Again, I'd rather see it from people that weren't Pat McAfee, but like, I think the Colts, I don't know who's making the decision essentially, but Danny Dimes to me is just unfeasible as a starting quarterback, and I think we know that. Anthony Richardson, I don't know it yet. I mean, if you're confident that you do know it, fair enough. Like, I can't point to something and go, well, you're wrong. Look, he's done X, Y, Z. Look at this incredible 70-yard ball he hit, because it doesn't matter to being an NFL quarterback. My main issue is that and I don't know who the Colts could have got that would be better, because Justin Fields has the same kind of issues. I'd rather have Justin Fields by a lot, because I think there's more untapped potential there. Danny Dimes, I just think I know what he is, and he's not a starting level NFL quarterback. Anthony Richardson might be at some point. If Andy Richardson can't be out Danny Dimes, though, he's not an NFL quarterback either. I fully agree. Yeah. And I think come week 1, I fully anticipate being Anthony Richardson. But again, if he can't show up in training camp and win that job, then yeah, the writing's kind of already on the wall, but it's maybe in pencil.
Yeah, I think my opinion is that he's not really had an off season with the Colts. Obviously, last year he was still battling through the injury. We didn't know how he's going to get. And like, I do agree with you. He needs some more. We need to remember he's only 22. He's actually 3 days older than Cam Ward, who's obviously going to be the seems like the number 1 quarterback in this draft. So I think that's taken into consideration. Obviously needs to change like his off-field stuff, because there's been plenty of noise coming from that. I'm just in agreement with Byron that Danny Dimes had that one good year where he was. I wouldn't say he was a great quarterback. He played well, but then he has all these injuries, and he's had 2 major neck injuries, which you worry about. And last year he got benched for Tommy DeVito. So if you get benched for Tommy DeVito, that's great. So if he beats out Richardson, then Tommy DeVito's better than Anthony Richardson. So yeah, then Richardson, it's not a great look. And I'll be curious to see how it works. Like, I think Colts have got to play this cleverly because they want Anthony Richardson to obviously succeed and be the guy they think he is. But as soon as they start Danny Dimes over him, then they're never going to get anything for him. I'm curious how they're going to play it in terms of like if like the first week or two they just feel like, oh, Daniel Jones could win this. Would the trade in? Would they be like out there as a trade bait for someone might give them a third, for example, similar to what the Cowboys did for Lance? That kind of, kind of trade rather than give up.
There's been a little smoke around because I think Richardson's agent came out immediately, right, and said like, we're not looking to move on or we're not looking to be traded or something. It's like, well, what the fuck are you saying that for? Yeah. Like, Gardner Minshew signed with the Chiefs today. Mahomes didn't come out and say he's not looking to be traded. I know it's an extreme example, but I just know that was the most recent quarterback signing I can think of. And I kind of thought, thinking of like career comparisons, and I did do a little, I'm not going to share the screen here, but like through their first 15 games, like players who I regard as similar style sets to Anthony Richardson. And the top one that always comes to mind is Josh Allen. But Josh Allen is a unicorn. Like, that doesn't happen all the time. Josh Allen, and this is through their first 15 games as a starter for all these players I'm going to kind of reference quickly here, but Josh Allen had a 55% completion percentage, garbage. Richardson is the lowest on this list by a lot. He's at 50%, but like Alex Smith was 55% as well. Steve Young was 54%. Like, these players who make their moves on their legs, and again, Steve Young's a different era, but I was trying to think of players who succeeded or went on to become something despite being running quarterbacks, essentially. If I'm Brian Daboll and Joe Shine, and you don't want to trade up the King's ransom to go and get Cam Ward at number 1, giving up an extra first maybe, or whatever Tennessee say you have to fucking give him. If I don't want Shedeur Sanders, do you offer your early third, or what have they got, pick 34 for Anthony Richardson and see if you can make magic twice? It kind of came to mind, like, as soon as that trade thing came out, I was like, if I'm the Giants, I'm getting on the phone.
And you know what's great? Joe Flacco's based in the Giants as well right now. So, Joe Flacco, yes, you just pair him back up again.
Joe Flacco get a job before Aaron Rodgers. Oh, that'd be so good. I didn't know that one. But yeah, I like the idea of a trade. And again, I have no idea what you're getting from Anthony Richardson. Raw skills, obviously, there. Needs reined in, needs to become a quarterback. But the one player who has
sounds of it, ultimately, I think is a lot. He needs to mature quickly.
Yeah, and I think, again, a lot of that failure, we can point to Anthony Richardson, of course. I think a lot of the failure is on Indianapolis. Like,
on the Colts as well,
you can't take a project player, he get injured year 1, and then year 2 say, right, it's now. Because he's had no time. And, again, bad organisations stay bad. I spent plenty of time criticising Mike Brown and Jerry Jones earlier. Jim Irsay is as erratic as it gets as an owner. Like, he wants to win today. He wants to develop. He wants to win tomorrow. Chris Ballard still has a job, but he's never won a division title in 7 years. So much of what Indianapolis does doesn't make sense to me, unsurprisingly. But the way Anthony Richardson, and again, I don't want to completely absolve him of any responsibility, but I don't think they've handled it like a real professional organization would, like the Bills did with Josh Allen. He played more, he didn't get injured, obviously, but Josh Allen was like, without wanting to speak too cliched about it, he's a wild horse who needed reined in. Yeah. And they've done an incredible job with it. It doesn't happen often, but Brian Daboll was that OC. Brian Daboll does need a quarterback. I think that's a very I think that would benefit both parties if the Colts don't believe in Richardson anymore. But I don't believe in Daniel Jones, so I think they have to have Richardson hit.
It's fair to say you don't believe in Daniel Jones, and that's fine because all the evidence says that. I think the thing is, I don't think Daniel Jones is going to have to do too much to beat him out. I think part of Anthony Richardson's problem last year, the back end of last year as well, was the teammates were starting to speak out, and I think that's a damning sign.
Yeah.
And once you lose that, it's very, very difficult to win that back. Whether even those guys that speak out are even there anymore, but once your locker room turns on you, I think it's almost impossible to come back from that. And what we saw, Daniel Jones has dealt with shitty situations in the Giants, but what he's done is deal with them with class, and he's dealt with them. And so I think just being a pro, doing your work, maybe works for Shane Stagg, and he's had a bit of time in Minnesota as well, Minneapolis, with Kevin O'Connell, and it was only a short period of time. But that might have helped him, improve and work on a few things. And if you continue that, if he can show he's stable and steady, and raise the floor of where they're at, and gives them a chance to win.
I mean, if he does all that, then of course he'll get the starting job. I just don't think he will. And before we spend an hour on Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, do you want to move on to the proper losers of the
let's talk about some losers. Joe, do you want to go first?
Yeah, who do I want to go? No, sorry, I'll just throw that. I don't really want to go for the most obvious one. I'm gonna go for the Falcons. I don't know what the Falcons are doing. It feels like they've lost a few players. They get Leonard Floyd in, who's didn't have a great year last year. He gets sacks, but I think his pressure rate was one of the lowest. And it feels like they haven't. I don't know. They're a team which I feel like, and again, I'm guessing they're hamstrung from that Kirk Cousins contract is still coming from that. I'm curious if they'll trade him. But there's a few teams, and I apologize if I've spewing words. Similar to like the Saints in the NFC South, it feels like no one's actually doing anything to beat the Bucs. Like I actually liked what the Bucs did, getting some of their players back on some good contracts. But everyone else, but the Panthers did
done okay.
Yeah, Panthers have done okay. They missed out on a few players, and they've got some good. But yeah, like the Falcons and Saints, like what have they done? They've the Saints did all these kind of different contracts to get some cap space. What, to re-sign your players who were garbage last year? They've just reset. Yeah, that Justin Reed was that. I don't mind that, but it's it's not going to change.
What's the point?
Yeah, to bring Chase Young back on that contract and bringing the tight end Juwan Johnson, but it's just guys, you were garbage last year. Why don't we try and improve instead of just being the same? So I think for me, I expect a little bit, something else, but I know they're both hamstring. It just feels a bit disappointing, and I don't know where you go with them kind of teams.
And I think there's a bit of a continuation from last year in what are the Falcons doing with the quarterback market / quarterbacks, their own quarterback room. Just release Kirk Cousins. You're going to pay him $10 million on Sunday as a roster bonus, and it sounds like right now they're going to keep him on the roster to be the most expensive backup in the league, to my knowledge, and to just have him there, I don't quite get it. No one's trading for him with that huge contract. Why are you eating a $10 million? They are strapped for cash.
Yeah.
They released Grady Jarrett for that reason. Just get rid of Kirk Cousins, move on, get a backup in for Penix, who isn't going to be a media story every single week that Penix doesn't look great. I don't get it. It doesn't feel like there's an adult in the room again where just make a tough decision.
Yeah, and I think with the Saints, it's just we're going to restructure all these contracts to just keep pushing it down. It's just I feel like 1 year they just need to be we're just going to be crap this year. We've just got to eat all this dead cap, and we'll start again. Because
it's on NFL Daily this week where Greg Rosefall had said I've never seen a team more committed to being 9-8.
Yeah, it's
at 9. Every year, it's just what can we do to stay exactly in the middle? Just fucking eat it for a year. I couldn't agree more.
And with the Derek Carr thing where it looks like he's going to stay. But, because they were we want to pay you less, and he was no. And it's fair enough, you gave him that contract, and if they release him now, it's a huge dead cap and all that kind of stuff. It's just, again, they're a nothing team. And I think that's where you don't want to be in the NFL. It's just a nothing team what no one really cares. Except your own fans. You're just not exciting.
And even they must be getting fed up. Drew Brees was a long time ago now.
Yeah.
Paul, do you want to go loser, or do you want me to?
At least they're not paying Drew Brees anymore.
Fine, they're still paying Michael Thomas.
Do you want to take it, or do you want me to do it, Byron?
I'm not going to go Seattle, if that's what you think.
No.
Oh, you want to go Cowboys? You go Cowboys. You go ahead.
Yeah, I'll top of the Dallas Cowboys. You know what? I'll start off by giving them some credit. They've tried to do some things, and they've made some signings and trades. Yeah. So, look, they've been a lot more active than I thought they would be. It's just the moves themselves aren't great. But they're trying at least. So we've got to give them some credit. They've gone from nothing to do nothing to trying to do something.
Can I ask you, why did they restructure all them contracts to create all this?
Yes,
no idea.
this is the point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to feel, oh, we've got all this money to spend now, and then being like, oh, we're not going to go. We're going to sign loads of first rounders who were garbage for all these other teams, and we're going to change them. It's just like it never works, Jerry.
So the back end of last week, they created $56 million of cap space by restructuring Dak Prescott and CD Lamb. And then you need to use it because you can't take it with. That's not how it works. You've moved the money to future years, and that's when it's going to get you. So you need to use this space that you've created, and that's why I had some hope that they would make a move or two.
There were rumours they were waiting for some players like Greenlaw and a few others, but I'm guessing they just don't want to spend as much of other teams.
Money, even though they've freed up the money. So unless they're going to make a big trade of some sort, I don't know. But plus side, Oshra Digizua, great, fair contract. Cavonte Turpin back, he needs to be a bigger part of the offense. Good. Marquise Bell, fair contract. I think he's 3 for 12. I think that's great value. CJ Goodwin, huge part of special teams. Bad. Let Jordan Lewis walk out the door. You've freed up that cap space. Bring him back. You need him. You struggle with
Also,
injuries.
your fourth highlight in free agency shouldn't be he's great on special teams. Turpin's one thing. He's a dynamic returner and can be part of the offense.
Yeah.
All-round special teams ace shouldn't be part of these kind of breakdowns.
Yeah.
They're not for any other team.
And then just some of the moves are baffling. So not re-signing Rico Dowdle when he only got $3 million guaranteed from the Panthers, and you spent that money and possibly more on Javonte Williams after you saw what Dowdle could do when you actually gave him the ball.
And we've seen what Javonte Williams can do coming since he tore his ACL. My favourite punt of the off-season so far, and no one seemed to appreciate it on Blue Sky. I don't know if you guys appreciate it in the chat even. They've gone from Dowdle to Dawdle. Like, Javonte Williams is hesitant and he's slow. Those aren't a good combination of things for a fucking running back. I couldn't believe they signed Javonte Williams. He better be a placeholder for a rookie.
Yeah. And then the bizarre run on making signing Peyton Turner, bust. Signing Elam, bust.
Kerry Elam, who is only famous for being picked on.
Yeah, in the AFC Championship game.
That's the only reason he's in anybody's thought process. He's like, oh, he's not the guy that got picked on. It's like, yeah. Jerry's like, oh, yeah, I remember hearing this guy's name. He must be good. It's like, no, Jerry, he was being picked on. I'm
sure Jerry Jones must have all these notebooks from previous drafts. And like, oh, what's that player like? And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, he's a really good player.
Yeah,
that must be it.
And
you've seen it over and over again.
Kenneth Murray might end up being okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, and a big position of need as well. But there's people there that I thought, once you freed up that space, I thought they might have taken a run at Poona Ford, who signed at the Rams, because you need that's a huge weakness that you've got. Help Ultra Diggies, who you've just given $80 million to, give them, more people to work with. Instead they got Solomon Thomas from the Jets, It really is just shopping in the bargain basement. And they've just wasted those compensation draft picks. They should have just kept the draft picks and drafted people in the 5th and 6th rounds.
Yep.
Is what they should have done.
And again, it goes back to the last 2 years as well. Yeah. Trey Lance, 4th round pick. Jonathan Mingo, 4th round pick.
Why do they not value these mid-round picks? Why do they not value these mid-round picks? Because they're just giving them away for fun.
Not a Scooby.
All right, that's me on the Cowboys. Byron?
I have a few losers, truthfully. But I'm going to go, I think, a little maybe off-ramp, a bit maybe different with this one. And it kind of relates to a bit of a theme of who our winners were. So my loser is the Green Bay Packers. Chicago, one of our winners. Vikings, one of our winners. Detroit, one of our winners. Green Bay have signed Aaron Banks, $77 million deal. I've already mentioned average O-lineman being one of the winners. Perplexing signing, I will say, to be polite. Nate Hobbs came in on a 4-year, $48 million. Not as much guaranteed, obviously, in that one. But again, not a game-changing cornerback. And that's your lot. I'm not saying the Packers were a bad team, but I think they're notably behind the lines in the Vikings coming into free agency, and I think they've both pushed clear of the Packers right now. I think on paper, and again, shoot me for the, Bears homerism here. I think on paper the Bears are a better team than the Packers right now. We see what happens with Caleb Williams, obviously, but Jordan Love is not a perfect prospect or perfect player either by any means. He's very erratic. LaFleur is a really good head coach, so I think he will obviously get the best out of his team generally. But I hate this free agency with the Packers, again, especially considering where they are. Put them in the NFC South and the division favourites probably, or really close with the Bucks. But they're in the NFC South, they're in the NFC North, with two really good teams and a team, as much as we can laugh about saying it every year, a team who must surely be on the ascendancy in the Bears. I just think Green Bay have just kind of sat on the hands a little bit here, and I don't think you can do that in a division that's really, really competitive. So they're my kind of underrated loser of the entire free agency window.
And I've got another one, and it might be harsh, and Joe, I want to see what you think about it, of course. I think it's the 49ers. They've just lost so many. I think it's 11 of the 22 starters played in the Super Bowl, lost to the Chiefs the second time around. So, lost less than 2 years ago, are gone. 11 out of 22 starters.
Yeah.
The list is so long, you have to scroll down several times on the NFL.com page to get to the bottom of the list for the Niners. It is crazy.
Joe probably have a lot more to say on it than I will, but I just wanted to quickly shout this out. The 49ers are the favourite for the division still. You can get the Rams at plus 165 or the 49ers at plus 120. I can't believe it. I'm not literally pumping into it, but if they start the season at that, I will be absolutely stunned. 49ers have got to have a big draft coming up. The Rams plus 165 is one of my favourite bets that you can get on the market presently.
Nice.
Anyway, Joe, sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, this has been up and down. Obviously, it's sad to see a lot of these players, but reading a lot of the reporters and analysts around the 49ers, it makes sense what they're doing, and I'm not as disappointed. I think they're the oldest team in the NFL last year. I think they're in the top four of the amount of cash they've actually spent. So I think it's got to a point where they just can't do that anymore. And what John Lynch said at the Combine is come true. He's basically said, we have to get younger. We have to So I don't think what people think is like a complete rebuild. I think it's trying to be a quick rebuild. They've still got the top players, to prop up quite a lot of positions. They've still got, arguably the one or two best linebacker. They've got arguably a top 5 edge rusher. They've got, arguably the top 2 tight end. So they've still got a lot of the best left tackle. So they've still got these players in there. They did have a really good draft last year, which helps. So a lot of the players who are leaving, there is replacements to go in there. But yeah, and they're going to get quite a lot of draft picks, I think, this year and next year, just with how big the contracts are. Just going through the players. So obviously, Debo, it made sense. I thought we've already talked about that one. Aaron Banks, like you said, it was so much money they weren't going to pay that. He is a mid-level. I think people keep saying, they only let 1 sack, but when you look at his pass rush wins percentage, it's very average for both of them. Jalen Moore, backup left tackle who came in. The Chiefs paid him quite handsomely, so we weren't going to do that for backup. The two, Hufanga and Greenlaw, I'm disappointed they're going, obviously being homegrown, especially Greenlaw, but they both have been injury prone. Especially Hufanga, he's missed quite a lot of games. He's not been the All-Pro for the last 2 years. He's been injured quite a lot. And obviously, we're not quite sure what's going to happen with Drake Greenlaw, because last year he came back and looked great in 3 quarters, but then he had to go out again because he had a calf injury. So, I hope they do well elsewhere, but you just never know with how big people are willing to pay him. Leonard Floyd. And then, Kyle Juszczyk was the one I was disappointed, but there's still rumours around that he might come back if people don't actually offer him the money he wanted. So it sounded like they let him go because he didn't want to take restructure his contract again, take a pay cut. So they let him go out. So I'm not hugely, some of the players have brought in are very depth players, which I think they need. Like I said, they've got them pillars. I don't think they're going to be that, incredible Stauntlet, especially on defense. Defense worries me the most. I think offense, Kyle can do something. They're going to sign Brock Purdy. They might be able to negotiate hard and try and, he's not going to get the Josh Allen money, but show where, I'm curious where Geno will get, and I think they'll try and offer him similar to Geno. Him signed. I think offense will be fine. But that defense last year, that was one of the worst defenses in the league. So to be like, oh, well, they're suddenly losing a great defense. They didn't have that last year, and that's why they were way down. Getting Salah back and what Salah did, he got these rookies, got the young players to be great players. I think he was one of the starters to make the Fred Warners, to make some of these players. So they had a good draft last year, especially on defense, a few cornerbacks and whatnot. Tre'Davious Ward was a big loss as well, but I knew he never was going to come back because he was like, he didn't want to come back with because what happened. Um, so I'm not as they're going to win the Super Bowl. They're like one of the favorites, but I'm actually fairly positive like the direction they're going. Again, they just need to have another good draft. That defensive line is the biggest worry for me, because they've literally got nobody. They've got Bosa and that's it. Because they released obviously lost Hargraves. They released their other defensive tackle. His name's escaping me. Obviously, Leonard Floyd. So they basically released. Millie Collins. Yes. So they lost quite a lot. So that's but you get Bob Salah back, and can he work his magic on that line, bringing in some rookies. So yeah, I think it's going to be an up and down year. They've got a fairly high draft pick, I think at 12 or 13, certainly for the 49ers. So I think another year or two, I think they might be back up there. I think they're going through that rotation of getting rid of the older players and trying to get some young players in, which, like I said, this Ricardo Green's looking good, the wide receivers. So we'll see where they go. So yeah, I understand why they've been rated low because they've lost so many big players, but some of these players, were they good because they were playing with like the great players? Like, will Greenlaw be as good as playing for the Broncos compared to playing next to Fred Warner, who's for me the best linebacker in the game? So yeah.
And a couple of positives as well. Kyle Shanahan finally got his man at quarterback. Mac Jones is in the building. Finally.
There you go.
After years of wanting him and John Lynch demanding he sign
Trey Lance.
Yeah. He finally gets his man in Mac Jones. And you're absolutely right about the draft as well. The Niners pick 11. The Niners have the most draft picks in the entire draft. Before the comp picks are confirmed and handed out, they have 12 draft picks this year, 4 of them in the top 100. I just don't think they should be division favourites. Because I think they need a lot to go right compared to the Rams. Like, Williams needs to stay fit, McCaffrey needs to stay fit, Ayuk needs to come back fit and bounce in exactly as he was. I love Juwan Jennings. I think he could be a great value in fantasy. I just don't think they should be division favourites. I think they should be number 2 because there's another big loser in the NFC West, which to me is the Seattle Seahawks. But a winner for the Seahawks is their defensive line is going to look incredible in training camp. Because they added DeMarcus Lawrence, it's already a strong unit, and they're going to be going up against... I mean, I think we might get jobs as starting guards for the Seahawks the way they're going. John Schneider does not respect or pay the offensive line, especially interior. They've continued to do so. There is 2 teams in the NFL who currently have less than $20 million devoted to their offensive line this year. The Ravens and the Seahawks. Lamar Jackson can get you out of anything. I don't worry about them. And Ronnie Stanley, obviously, is getting paid more in the long term. The Seahawks don't have anything. Maybe Charles Cross can become something, or coming off an injury. I hate what the Seahawks have done. To me, they're acting like a team who are 3-14.
Yeah.
And they're a team who missed out on the playoffs from strength of victory. I don't get it. The defense has got to be good. I think they've made some wise additions there. I think it was already a strength, but
is this the thing from the Seahawks going? You could kind of carry on winning 10, 11 games. Wild card, you might win a division the odd year for the next 3-4 years. But is that team really going to be good enough to win complete the ultimate?
I get that.
Of winning a championship, and is that the thing to go? We are what we are. We've got the choice of continuing down this path, and we likely might get a playoff win or 2 every now and then over the next few years. Or I
don't disagree with that at all in theory, but then do it. Don't sign Sam Darnold then.
I mean, yeah, that's fair.
Go with Sam Howell.
Yeah.
Like, save that money, put it somewhere, get some more draft picks. Like, what have they done? They're not going to get they've got a draft pick for Trey and Geno, but like, they've brought in Sam Darnold. I was wrong last year on Darnold in Minnesota. Kevin O'Connell is a genius, and again, I was wrong. I'll hold my hands up anytime it even gets close to being mentioned. If Sam Darnold works in this Seahawks line, unless they magically fix it in the draft, and I think there is plenty of good guards in the draft, to be fair, to do it, but John Schneider doesn't seem to pick them well, so I wouldn't say I'm confident in his ability to do so. And/or Clint Kubiak is an effing magician. Sam Darnold ain't going to prove me wrong 2 years in a row. Not with this offense.
I was going to say, I think the only thing I slightly disagree with it is that having Clint Kubiak coming in, it's going to play that player. It's going to be play action, and that's not what like. Yeah, they're going to run the ball, and basically Darnold's back's going to be at the offensive line, and it's going to be that kind of. It's literally going to come out of his hat. They're going to try and make him. I know Darnold holds onto the ball, but they're going to try and make him throw it as quick as possible. When they're going to try and make it how the Saints were last year in the first 2 weeks, where we were sat here being like, "Holy shit!" As the Saints got one of the best offenses, but then they got injuries, and I think people started to work them out. And I think the Seahawks are slightly better than the Saints. So I think they're hoping for that kind of thing where Darnold fits more into that scheme, where it's more, that kind of like the Vikings. It's a very similar concept to Kevin O'Connell. It's from like the similar line. It's the Shanahan tree. It's probably Kubiak, the Shanahan. So I think it's going to be that's a workout. So I don't mind it as much getting rid of Geno and getting in Sam Darnold. I'm curious, like what would have happened if they didn't do that? Like, would Geno fit it into that system as much as they wanted him and be like, this is how we're going to play, and not how Geno likes to play? So I'm a bit wait and see with the Seahawks in terms of how Clint Kubiak can make this, because I think that kind of system helps a bad offensive line. I've seen it with the Niners. They've never had they've had Trent Williams, great, but like the rest of it's always been like bit part pieces or like average kind of offensive line, and they've made that work in the running game and also the passing game. So if he can work his magic that way, I think it's a good shot.
If he works his magic,
yeah.
That I'm wrong about Sam Darnold 2 years in a row, he's a head coach next year.
Yeah. Only thing with Sam Darnold, he can't like read defenses that well. No. So that's the only worry is, we saw against when they played the Rams, and the Rams just thought we're just going to blitz as much as possible and destroy this interior line, and we'll see what happens. That's the only worry for the Seahawks. Well, not only worry, but
yeah. As soon as he gets pressured, he panics. He always has. He always will. Last year, despite everything being perfect, per PFF, he had the second highest turnover throw rate in football. Geno Smith, with everything going wrong around him, had the 11th. Darnold is Sam Darnold. Like, Derek Carr would be a better fit. Like, we mentioned the Saints there. Derek Carr's a competent NFL quarterback. I think the Seahawks did well to only give him $55 million guaranteed on $105 or $115. I don't know if that ever got confirmed. $1 million contract, because again, I'd be stunned if I'm wrong twice in a row about Darnold, because he got carried by Kevin O'Connell, throwing to Justin Jefferson, T.J. Hockenson, Jordan Addison with a good offensive line. He doesn't have any of that this going for him in Seattle. He maybe has he does have Clint Kubiak, who maybe is a really good play caller. He started really well with the Saints, but when things went wrong, so did the Saints just fell to earth and below. JSN had a really good second year, but he's not Justin Jefferson by any stretch. Noah Fant is not T.J. Hockenson. Jake Bobo is not Jordan Addison. I think it's a disaster waiting to happen. And yeah, that O-line is a shambles. I do have a couple of other losers if you want to be quick with some. Yep. Texans, don't know what you're doing on your offensive line. They just traded for Ed Ingram from the Vikings. So they did get rid of Kenyon Green, who had the third worst pressure rate in the NFL on one-on-ones, and got instead the Ed Ingram, who was the worst in the NFL on one-on-one pressure rate, giving up. They also got the fourth worst in Laken Tomlinson. So I don't know what the Texans are doing. I understand the need to revamp the offensive line. I don't think they're doing a very good job of it as yet. See what, again, comes out in the draft, but we're talking today in free agency. I had one more. People wanting to use a squat rack in the Eagles facility. They have Saquon Barkley, who has got quads like no one else. They have Jalen Hurts, who can bench or squat 600 pounds. And they thought, you know what, let's bring AJ fucking Dillon in, who has Quadzilla. I absolutely love it. I don't care how he fits. It's going to be memes in the summer, and that is all I care about. So yeah, if you are waiting, if AJ Brown, you want to try and get those quads boosted up for whatever reason, you're Lane Johnson, you decide you want to get a quad workout in, maybe go to Planet Fitness on your way home, Lane, because I think your three boys are going to be using it. The tush push is going to be fucking bolting people out the back of Link.
8 yards to go on the tush push.
Yeah. It's not going to be 4th and 1 now, it's going to be 1st and 10. I can't wait.
Good stuff. Excellent. That wraps up, I think, free agency winners and losers. I think we managed to touch on every major deal, unless Joe, you're about to tell me otherwise.
One more, I would say Justin Fields, the Jets, we haven't touched on.
Oh, we didn't talk about Justin Fields. Let's
Obviously
finish up on
starting
Justin
QB.
Fields then,
Yeah, I think it's a great move for the Jets. I don't know where else they could have gone if they're not in love with any of the quarterbacks in the draft. Obviously, they're probably not going to get the number one. If they're not in love with Sanders, why not give him a go? What was it, 2 years, 30 million, or something like that?
Guaranteed, I think.
Yeah, 2 years, 40.
Yeah, 30, which is like nothing for a quarterback. Why not give him a go? He played well for the Steelers until they benched him for Wilson. It feels like they're in that bridging kind of stage. You just got a new head coach. There's going to be a lot of turnover. He's wanting to implement his ideas. So I think getting Justin Fields, it's one of them you never know. Why not take a punt? It could work out. It could turn into a competent quarterback. And I don't think the Jets have ever had a run heavy quarterback in my head when I was thinking about it.
Sam Darnold, who was running away from pressure, but yeah.
I'm running away from ghosts as well.
Yeah. Well, it will be.
One thing it will be.
One thing
it will.
One thing it will be for the Jets. Justin Fields will be fun.
Yep.
That's certainly, and they've not had a lot of fun at the quarterback position
or anywhere else.
But yeah, mainly the quarterback position. So Justin Fields will be fun for them at least.
I do always find it interesting as well to see, like, I always regard it as like, who would Aaron Glenn not want to play against? And he's a very good defensive coach, and I always find defensive coaches like hate playing against running quarterback. If Fields can stay fit and healthy and get a good run of games under his belt, I'm kind of fascinated to see how he does, because the highs are there, the lows are really there as well. So, yeah, I really like the move, Joe. Yeah, it's a good one to call out.
Cool.
I did have one last tiny winner as well, sorry, I wanted to mention it.
Damn it. Last one.
The Ravens. Because the rest of that division doesn't know how to fucking run an organisation, it feels like. Pittsburgh still don't have a quarterback other than Mason Rudolph. The Bengals came in needing 3 big players to either be paid or traded or do what they want and decided, no, we're just going to pay Mike McKissick and ignore everyone else. And the Cleveland Browns. We talked about it with Myles Garrett. They are minus 130 to win the division. I'm probably not betting minus money this early in the off-season, but my word, I think you could put them at minus 300 and I think there'd be a good value. The Bengals might end up coming round to it, but yeah.
Excellent. Good stuff. Right, there's a wrap. That's a wrap. No more. I think we've touched everything on everything. We'll pick up the rest, I'm sure, at some point. If there are any more moves, we'll pick them up in future episodes. Next week, we have the first of what we're hoping will be a series of interviews with NFL Academy players and coaches. We sit down with Enrique Aspinall, one of the NFL Academy players up at the Academy in Loughborough, at the Loughborough University. So we'll get to chat with Enrique about his experience, what that life's like in the NFL Academy, and about what's hopefully to come for him once his time in the NFL Academy has ended. So check out that episode next week. That'll be dropping on Thursday the 20th Friday the 21st of March. So next Friday. Check out our interview with Enrique Aspinall. But thanks very much for joining us for our free agency winners and losers. We'll be, make sure you follow us again across all our channels. Mentioned them at the start, but we're podcasts available on Spotify as usual, Apple, Podbean, Overcast. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Overcast. YouTube for the video, and then the channels at GTW_GTC, X, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok as well. We'll see you next week.